Hello, and welcome to our fourth week on the theme of Biblical Women for Awakened. You know, I find it particularly ironic that women have been subjugated to the background of church history when they should be at the forefront. Women were vital to Jesus' ministry, and let's be honest, for the success of the church. In this week's Centering Scripture, we discover that not only were women essential for Jesus' ministry, but without them, he wouldn't have been able to be in ministry at all. In this scripture, we discover that women were funding Jesus' ministry. This isn't too surprising, I suppose, because we know that Jesus depended on the hospitality of others, but so often we forget that those others on whom he was depending, those others were women, and they were providing for his needs. They're named specifically in this centering scripture. We discover that Mary Magdalene was one, which perhaps isn't too surprising. Another was Joanna, which should be surprising because we discover that her husband was a member of Herod's court. That's risky because Jesus spent a great deal of his time speaking the truth and love to the principalities and the powers, including Herod. So it's risky for both her and her husband for her to be providing Jesus with financial resources. But she does. We also hear Susanna provides Jesus with financial resources and a number of other unnamed women. They are the ones who ensured that he was able to be in ministry. Now, I think a lot of times we have this mental image of Jesus and his 12 disciples going around and speaking to the crowds, but it just being those 13 people. Well, that just wasn't true. Jesus had a number of followers, and many of his most loyal followers were women. That's why they're named over and over again in the Gospels. There's also this popular narrative that Jesus was abandoned by everyone during his last week. And that's also not true. Jesus was abandoned by his male followers, but his female followers were there the whole time. They were there through the betrayal. They were there through the trial. They were at the foot of the cross. They were there as he was taken down and placed in a tomb. And they were portrayed as being there on Easter Sunday, seeing the empty tomb and telling everyone about it. As Jurgen Moltmann says, without women preachers, no one would have known about the resurrection. Now, regardless of what you think about the historicity of the resurrection, it's significant that women were there at every step of Jesus' final hours. Jesus' women followers were loyal. Perhaps it shouldn't be too surprising that Jesus had this special ministry to women who were marginalized in that society and still are today, because Jesus was raised by a strong, independent woman, Mary. Mary's portrayed as an unwed teen mother who is strong. It shouldn't surprise us either that she has those other points of marginalization, unwed, teen, mother, because in Matthew's genealogy, all the women listed are women who had some sexual scandal surrounding them. And that points to the significance of Jesus' ministry to people who are experiencing points of marginalization and how they are the ones who God chooses as representatives of the reign of God, of how people shouldn't be judged but should be included. And so Mary meets that criteria as well, an unwed teen mother who chooses in Luke's gospel whether or not she will be pregnant or not. I think that is significant for us in the 21st century, that Mary has a choice of whether or not she will have this child. In the Gospel of Luke, I've encouraged you to read about Mary in the birth narratives in particular, and to read Mary's prayer, the Magnificat, because it is a wonderful example of women's empowerment and of how strong Mary was. In this prayer, she says that God should scatter the proud and to cast the mighty from the throne, to make sure that the hungry are filled and that the rich are sent away with nothing. These are the words of Mary, the one who raised Jesus. Is it surprising at all that Jesus grew up to be this radically welcoming, incredibly hospitable, and committed to love person that he was, because he was raised by this strong woman? Women are essential to understanding Jesus' message. We cannot understand it without women. And as we discovered today, without them, he wouldn't have been in ministry at all. Thanks be to God for the women. May it be so.